We're looking back at the Formula One season for 2015, and I'm with James Allen and Dominic Harlow, former chief engineer with Force India and Williams. Now let's look at the chassis. Let's start with you, James. How would you rate them from 10 to 1?
Wow, this is a challenge, isn't it? Let's have a think about this. I think probably by the end of the year, certainly from sort of Hungary onwards, the Red Bull was as good as anything else out there. Obviously pretty much on a par with the Mercedes would be my appreciation of it. Slightly different strengths in different places, but just watching it go around the corners, it went exactly where the drivers pointed it. It's a beautiful car. I think the Ferrari was probably a little bit behind that. I'm not sure I buy McLaren's claims that they had the third or fourth best chassis. It didn't, as always, it looked a bit stiff to me. I think the Toro Rosso was a pretty good chassis. I think, with a more consistent and powerful engine in the back, I think that could have given a few people something to think about. And then obviously other teams like Sauber, for example, that capitalised early on in the season other people's unreliability, but then clearly the chassis just didn't develop. Lotus, they got the best out of what they had, but it was another sort of middling level chassis. I think the Manor is probably at the other end of the spectrum, although it was the slowest car. I think the aero package is basically not that bad. They just need more downforce. Be interesting to see how that goes when you bolt a current Mercedes engine into it with a bit more development on it. I think they could make quite a big step next year, probably over 2.5 seconds of lap time from the Manor from this year to next.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting. Dom, what about you? Similar?
I'm going to go with James with the top two. Yeah, I think the Red Bull and the Mercedes, you've got to remove the engines, which are obviously an enormous effect, but I think they were pretty well matched at the end of the season. From fourth place down, it is very difficult. Williams as well had a great engine, but it was still better than the other Mercedes engine cars of Force India and Lotus in the end, if you just go on the results and the lap times. McLaren, I actually think they were pretty good at the end. Perhaps they oversell, slightly with saying it was the fourth best car out there. Perhaps the equal of the Toro Rosso at the end. Toro Rosso very good at the start of the year and very good at high downforce.
Dom, what were the standout developmental changes throughout the season?
The nose was obviously one of the big aesthetic improvements for 2015. The rules were reworded to give a slightly more pleasant appearance to the nose, and that led us to the short nose, almost behind the neutral section of the front wing. So that was one of the areas people worked on very, very visibly, and I think a lot of the wings are now beginning to converge on a more similar solution. Obviously the engine was opened up as well, so with some more development tokens to spend, things we didn't see in terms of changes to the engine were going on.
James, we're talking about chassis, but isn't it the overall package that really counts?
As Dom says, because the engines are so important at the moment, it is an engine-dominated formula. There's no two ways about it. The sort of gains that you can get from the beginning of the season to the end on the power unit is immense. And of course, that's not just the pure power, it's the drivability, it's the fuel consumption, how much fuel you have to carry if you get better fuel consumption, all of those things, the ERS deployment. So they're sophisticated things, and there's a lot to come from them. I think generally speaking, we will see a tailing off though of the differences as the rules remain sort of stable through this coming year. And it looks like 17, obviously there'll be some changes as well on the chassis side, but not so much on the power unit side. So hopefully that will bring everyone closer together.
You can read more about that topic and more from the JA on F1 season review, available at the website.